Violence in recent months in Iraq has ramped up considerably. More suicide bombings, more kidnappings, right to the brink of civil war. Could today's verdict be the final push, or are we already there in Iraq?
Well, as I've said before, we certainly are already in a state of civil war in Iraq. It's just merely a question of how you choose to call it. Saddam Hussein certainly is a flashpoint for this. I mean, in terms of his relevance to the country, it's not that relevant. But in terms of becoming a martyr, I think the United States has to be realistic about that in terms of overall security in the country. We already have major riots going on in Tikrit. There is certainly limited control over Sadr city inside Baghdad to no control, and the local militias are certainly having a good time today celebrating the sentence. Overall, the country is in a state of chaos. So what value is it to say that there's some sort of security going on or some sort of justice system going on with regards to this trial when local security for the average Iraqi is almost non-existent?
In Baghdad today, curfew imposed, a very stiff curfew imposed. Who's watching the city, do you think?
Well, the U.S. forces are. Certainly there's a question as to the capability of Iraqi security forces. There's indications that many of them just didn't show up. And of course there are the private military companies that we rarely ever hear about or even talk about. There's in excess of 60,000 private military contractors, I mean a whole separate private army that operates inside Iraq, of which 10 to 20,000, we're not really clear on the numbers, are hard military personnel or ex-military personnel. And so they provide a lot of security that we don't see.
Let's go to Washington. Samer Shahata, Middle East politics and American foreign policy expert. Samer, was the Hussein trial and today's verdict an example of the new democracy in Iraq, do you think?
I don't think so. I think there are many reasons to be very skeptical of that, not only with regard to democracy, but with regard to the legitimacy of the Iraqi state or the judicial system, as well as the likelihood or unlikelihood of this leading to any kind of national reconciliation inside Iraq. This is an incredibly divisive issue. So while there are people celebrating in Sadr city and in southern Iraq, there are also many people who are very unhappy, as Sunil mentioned, in Tikrit, in Anbar province, and elsewhere.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your time this morning. Stuart Alford in London, Samer Shahata in Washington, and Sunil Ram in Toronto. Thank you to all three.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There were mixed reactions across